the aliens decided to get rid of humanity and take the Earth. To begin with, they blew up the moon. A man named Jack Harper walks the streets of New York and notices a girl in the crowd. He has tender feelings for her, although he does not even remember her name. The girl also recognizes him and smiles. Suddenly he wakes up. Jack lives in 2077. Half a century ago, aliens attacked Earth. First they destroyed the moon, which caused earthquakes and tsunamis on the planet. In a few hours they destroyed cities. Then the invasion began and the survivors had to use nuclear weapons. They won the war but lost Earth. Because of radiation, life on it has become dangerous. Then people built a huge space station called TET and moved there. This is a temporary shelter. Soon people plan to move to Saturn's moon Titan, but for this they need to pump all the water from Earth. Only then will there be enough energy for a new colony, on which the survival of mankind depends. Jack and his partner Vika were sent to Earth 5 years ago. They guard the hydro platforms that pump water from Earth. On the planet there are aliens who are trying to destroy the towers. Jack repairs drones designed to protect the platforms, and Vika keeps in touch with the command. Jack's and Vika's shift will end in 2 weeks, and they will return to TET with the rest of the people. Vika is incredibly happy about this, but Jack doubts.
I can't shake the feeling that Earth, in spite of all that's happened, Earth is still my home.
Before being sent to Earth, the heroes had their memory erased for non-disclosure of information, if the aliens take them prisoner. But Jack is still haunted by snippets of memories from the past life. In the morning, Vika, as usual, gets in touch with the boss named Sally, and Jack, with a callsign Technician 49, goes to inspect hydraulic platforms. 2 broke in one night drone. Jack must find and repair them before evening. Jack exits the aircraft apparatus without a spacesuit. Apparently, the Earth is not so dangerous to be on. But then why did people leave it? Technician 49 replaces a damaged drone part. Vika follows Jack through dash cam and suddenly detects a threat next to him. But it's just a homeless dog. The repaired drone activates and prepares to destroy the dog as a foreign body. But Jack scares the animal away just in time by shooting in the air. The drone scans the guy and recognizes him as Technician 49. If Jack had been someone else, the drone would not have spared him. Having restored the apparatus, Jack decides to relax a little and admire the beautiful, proud view. He doesn't understand why humans should leave Earth to aliens.
We won the war. Now we have to leave.
He needs to look for the next drone with a broken beacon. So Jack gets on a motorcycle and goes in search of a drone among the post-apocalyptic wasteland. The drone is found in a strange rift. At the bottom, the guy finds himself in an abandoned library. He picks up a weak drone signal, but this turns out to be a trap of aliens, who are called scavengers. Jack almost falls into a trap, but miraculously frees himself and tries to climb up. However, his rope breaks and the guy falls back to the bottom of the pit. It is surrounded by scavengers in dark suits, but they don't attack. Suddenly, the repaired drone arrives to help Jack. It deals with opponents. After the massacre, the guy finds under his feet a book of the songs of ancient Rome. Jack picks it up and gets back to the surface. Exhausted, he returns to their hideout with Vika. He reads the book and then gives the girl a real earthly flower. But Vika doesn't like it at all. She coldly throws the plant off the tower.
I know you think I'm a stickler, but you have no idea what kind of toxins could be in something like that.
Although young people live as a couple, there is no mutual understanding between them. Jack holds dear everything earthly, and Vika is raving about the idea of return to TET as soon as possible. At dinner, Jack realizes that the scavengers in the library didn't try to deal with him. They obviously wanted to take the guy alive. But why do they need him? That night, Jack dreams about the girl of his dreams again. He wakes up abruptly in the middle of the night due to a nuclear explosion of one of the hydraulic platforms. The technician boards the ship and sets off to figure out what happened there. It looks like the platform was blown up again by scavengers, and it will not be possible to restore it. Suddenly Jack spots an outsider's signal and flies to its source. The signal comes from the dilapidated Empire State Building. Jack gets close to the transmitter and realizes that the scavengers are transmitting to space some coordinates. In place of these coordinates, is the destroyed desert. However, the technician cuts the wires anyway and interrupts the signal. After Jack flies to patrol the airspace, at least that's what he tells Vika. But in reality, the man goes to the oasis of earthly life. This place is not infected by radiation. The guy had found a hut on the shore of the lake here, and collects earthly things in it. Items found during the 5 years of the mission. There are many books in Jack's earthly home, records, and there is even a player for them. The guy listens to music and plays basketball.
I'm gonna miss this place. Would have been great.
He decides to take a nap on the grass. In a dream he sees himself on top of the Empire State Building with the dream girl. She calls Jack's name. Guy abruptly jumps up and suffers from the inability to see her in reality. Suddenly, with a wild noise, a spaceship falls to the ground. The ship's course coincides with the coordinates of the scavengers. Jack also goes to that place. However, the command sends drones to the crash site and sternly orders technician to return to base. Jack does not obey and decides to check everything himself. There are no scavengers nearby, and the ship was obviously built by Earthlings before the war. During the fall the body crashed and only a few capsules with sleeping people inside survived. In one of them, the girl from Jack's dreams. At this moment, a drone flies up and starts firing at the capsules. Jack contacts Vika and demands to immediately stop the attack on people. But commands to drones are being given by the boss from Ted, the contact with whom had been lost. The drone scans the girl. Now the machine will understand that in front of it is an unknown entity, and will eliminate it. Jack covers the girl with his body, and only thanks to this, he manages to save her. The technician loads her capsule onto his ship and brings it to the base.
This has to be reported.
I'll be sure and report that the drones killed the crew from one of our own ships. See what command makes of that.
Suddenly, the girl from the capsule wakes up, recognizes Jack and calls him by name. But then she loses consciousness again. Perplexed, companions place the survivor in a medical compartment and look after her. The girl introduces herself as Julia. Learning that she is the only survivor, the girl is horrified and tries to return to her wrecked ship. By the looks of it, she spent in Delta sleep 60 years and is now disoriented. Vika tries to inject her with sleeping pills, but Julia does not allow it. Over dinner, Jack tries to figure out if Julia is related to the scavengers. Why did the ship land at the coordinates they indicated? But Julia says that their assignment was secret, and is not going to reveal anything. Jack and Vika briefly tell her about the alien attack and how life has changed on Earth in 60 years. Vika also makes it clear that Jack belongs to her. This makes Julia laugh. Later, a jealous Vika offers to send the girl to Ted. Looks like she also remembers Julia, but does not want to discuss it with her partner. Instead, she warns Jack that the girl might be an alien since her ship was flying towards scavenger coordinates. At dawn, the guy meets Julia in the middle of their hideout. She urgently needs to return to her ship and pick up the flight recorder. Jack also wants to figure everything out, so he flies with Julia without warning Vika, who is horrified when she wakes up. At the crash site of the ship, Julia finds a recorder, while Jack is suddenly attacked by scavengers. They stun the technician with a blow to the head, blindfold him and drag him somewhere. Hiding her nervousness, Vika contacts Commander Sally and gently asks to send a drone to the crash site of the ship. She lies that Jack went to patrol the space and did not get in touch. The boss reluctantly agrees and now the drone is on the trail of the guy's DNA. Jack wakes up in a dark room. Out of the darkness comes an unknown voice coding lines from a book that Jack recently found in the library. Where does the scavenger know about this and why does he have a human voice? It turns out that there are quite a lot of so-called scavengers on the planet, and they have long been watching Jack. Their leader named Malcolm claims that they are not aliens, but ordinary people, and drones are programmed to destroy them. People hid for decades, but it didn't get better. Then they deciphered the GPS signal of the ship Julia was flying on and helped it land. People removed the nuclear reactor. They also stole the drone. They want to reprogram it and send a nuclear bomb to Tet to destroy the station. But the drone won't let anyone near it. Only Jack can work with it. For this, people brought him to their lair, but the guy refuses to blow up Tet.
There are people up there.
Malcolm is not going to explain anything. His assistant takes over the job, and hurts Jack, but the technician still refuses to work with the drone. Then scavengers threaten Julia. Jack begs not to harm her. At this time, the scavengers' base is found by the drone that flew in on the trail of Jack's DNA. Fighters manage to get rid of it, but more drones will obviously arrive soon. Malcolm has no choice but to let Jack and Julia go. Finally, he advises the guy to visit the radioactive zone if he wants to figure everything out and remember his past. Instead, the young people drive to the Empire State Building to give Vika a signal. The girl is happy that Jack has been found, and sends a rescue ship to the building. Meanwhile, Julia tries to awaken Jack's memories. She says that 60 years ago, even before the war, a team of astronauts with her, Jack and Vika were sent into space to investigate a foreign object. It was Tet. Apparently Jack and Vika were brought out of sleep, and the other sleeping astronauts were returned to Earth's orbit.
Who are you?
I'm your wife.
The guy is shocked. Julia recalls that they once had a date at Empire State Building. Then Jack gave his beloved a ring, and she agreed to become his wife. Julia still wears it around her neck. The guy remembers this story in detail and hugs his beloved. Then a rescue ship flies up to them, and Vika sees their love scene through a video recorder. She is terribly offended by Jack and does not want to let him into the shelter. When he arrives, Vika throws Jack a scene of jealousy and informs Command that the technician found a survivor and stopped coping with his responsibilities. With her complaints, Vika, without knowing it herself, launches a self-destruct mechanism at the base. At the last moment, Jack tries to tell High's colleague the truth about Ted, but she does not believe him. Here a drone appears and eliminates Vika. It would have eliminated Jack too, if Julia had not shot it down. The technician runs to the communication point. Boss Sally in a carefree tone invites Jack to Tet, and asks to bring Julia with him. Vika's DIA commander claims is due to a ridiculous accident.
It's time to go home, Jack.
But the guy no longer believes in command from Tet. The couple jumps into a ship and try to hide. They are pursued by drones sent by Sally. Jack miraculously succeeds in dealing with them, but the ship is blown into the radioactive zone, and due to damage it falls to pieces. Jack wakes up in the middle of the desert and notices nearby a pillar of smoke from damaged drones. A ship is approaching them. Jack runs up to the pilot and suddenly finds a total copy of himself. Apparently, the zones are designated as radioactive, so that the clones do not come across each other. Technicians differ only in number. Jack is 49th, and his opponent is 52. Julia runs up to them, and the second technician recognizes her too. A fight breaks out between the guys, during which Julia is accidentally wounded. As a result, Jack neutralizes the enemy and knocks out the drone, who is about to fire. He then hides the wounded Julia in a sand grotto and flies to Tech 52's base. Jack needs to figure out his guesses and get a device to treat Julia. The guy arrives at base 52, picks up a medical device and meets an exact copy of Vika. She casually greets Jack and kisses him. The man successfully plays his part and returns to Julia. He heals the girl's wound and takes her to the lake house. Julia wakes up, explores the cabin and goes to Jack. The guy is completely confused. From all that is happening, Jack understands only one thing. He loves Julia with all his heart. She also sees her former love in the guy, and the rest doesn't bother her now. The lovers spend the whole night secluded in the house. In the morning, Jack realizes,
I wanted to spend the rest of my life here.
But for this he needs to help the rebels defeat Tet. He promises Julia that after that they will return to their hut. The lovers return to the rebel base. Malcolm is glad that Jack himself is convinced of the hostility of Tet and is ready to destroy it. The guy immediately takes to reprogramming the drone, and Malcolm tells him how 60 years ago the takeover of the Earth began. Some people managed to survive the cataclysms after destruction of the moon. But then thousands of Jack clones flew to Earth from the alien Tet. Everyone had their memory erased, and they set about destroying humanity. After drones and technicians flew in, again, clones of Jack. At the behest of the system, they watched the pumping of water to make the Earth lifeless. This way they had already dealt with many planets. Once every 5 years, the technicians replaced each other. But version Jack 49 was the most sensitive. Malcolm figured it out when the guy saved Julia. The real Jack continued to live inside the guy all this time.
I just had to find a way to bring you back.
Finally, the drone is ready. Now, with a nuclear bomb inside, it can be launched at Tet. Malcolm would have dreamed of flying with a drone and seeing the collapse of the hated system. True, it would be a one-way trip. The rebels are preparing to launch, when suddenly Tet drones fly into the open gates of the base. They were sent by Vika from base 52, who had lost her technician. Drones are bombarding everything is in their path. During a fierce firefight, Jack and several guys miraculously manages to neutralize them. After the battle it turns out that the reprogrammed drone is blown up and Malcolm is seriously injured. Suddenly, Jack decides,
I can take the bomb myself.
But the system might not let the guy in if it senses danger. Then Julia decides to fly with her lover, because earlier Tet herself asked Jack to bring the survivor. The guy puts Julia in her sleep pod so the system doesn't suspect it a trick when approaching. The couple is going through a painful goodbye. After explosion, they will not be able to survive and live the way they dreamed. The lovers promise to see each other in dreams. Julia says Jack's name and falls asleep. Jack loads the capsule onto his ship, picks up an old flight recorder and goes to Tet. Jack turns on a 60-year-old recorder and plunges into memories of that flight. He was the commander of the ship, and Vika was his assistant. Julia was in Delta sleep with the rest of the astronauts. Jack kept communication with Sally from the command post on Earth. The ship was supposed to explore Tet, keeping a safe distance from it. But something went wrong, and Tet, like a magnet, began to pull the ship. Then Jack, for the safety of the sleeping astronauts, disconnected the sleeping module with Julia. The module was supposed to return to Earth's orbit from where the command could pick up the astronauts. Side module with Jack and Vika was sucked inside Tet. The recordings breaks here. In the present tense, he flies up to Tet and announces that he has brought a survivor, according to the order. They let him into the station. Here the guy is looking at a lot of cells, where clones of Jack and Vika are floating in the solution. The pilot lands next to a huge pyramidal structure. This is Tet's brain that has been communicating with Jack all this time. There is no Sally here. Artificial intelligence simply generated her image for communication with people. Jack opens the capsule, and it's not Julia who emerges from it, but a heavy injured Malcolm. He couldn't miss the destruction of Tet. At the same time, Julia also wakes up in a capsule. She is on Earth, in the house by the lake. The girl realizes that Jack saved her again. At the same moment, a horde of drones rushes to the rebel base on Earth. People are preparing to repel the attack. AI doesn't give up either. It continues to brainwash Jack.
I created you, Jack. I am your god.
But the guy curses at it. They activate the bomb with Malcolm, and Ted explodes. Drones on Earth stop receiving commands and turn off. People from Earth watch with relief the explosion of the hated Ted, and Julia understands that she lost a loved one. 3 years pass. Peaceful life reigns on Earth. Julia raises hers and Jack's daughter at the lake house. Suddenly a crowd comes out on the opposite shore of the lake survivors, and among them Jack 52. It took him 3 years to remember his past life and find the house built by another Jack and his family.
I am Jack Harper, and I am home.
What would you do if you were Jack? Let's discuss this movie in the comments. See you soon.